Hello and welcome to another episode of Wannabe Entrepreneur. Today we have Wolfgang again here. I told you that we still had a lot to speak with him, and it's great to have you back. How are you?
Hey Thiago, I'm fine. Sitting here in Austria in the sun.
It's great to have you back. We want to cover the topic of project termination, which is very, very hard and very complex, but in general is when should we stop a project? It's always hard because it can be too early, it can be too late. It's a very, very hard topic. And Wolfgang, you already finished a lot of or terminated a lot of projects, right? Can you even count how many?
That's a good question. Projects that were online, I think even not that many. So I think it's also already the question, should you go online with a project? But that's what you covered already, right? What idea should you follow and what idea do you want to work on?
Right.
But if it's online, then of course there comes a point when you have to decide, okay, should I proceed? Should I invest more time, more money? Or should I just stop it and use my time in a different project? Yeah.
When you mean online, it's live. So you have ready for
exactly
for
live
users,
production,
right?
however you see it, the contact
Yeah.
with the users or whatever you do. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Do you have like a thumb rule, a way to decide if you should terminate a project or not?
I mean, in general, I always think about the goals or why I did it and why I wanted to do it in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can better decide, okay, do I reach somehow the goals, or can I even reach the goals? How much effort is it to do it? Are there any opportunities that are somehow useful? And that's why I should follow the whole thing and proceed with the project. Or is it the opposite? And then I have to think how should I terminate it? Because that's also, I think, a big topic. It's not just stopping a project. You can also somehow recycle it or use it in a good way.
Yeah.
But that's at the end the questions that I ask myself. Is it somehow useful?
Useful in what way? Like your resume is going to make you money? How do you determine what useful is?
Exactly. I think that's what you have to define for yourself, right? If you write a blog as a side project, for example, I think the goal is not to make money. It's more about to reach your audience.
Right.
Maybe it's even advertisement for you. So then that's the outcome, the goal that you want to reach. And with other projects, if you have to make a living out of it, then of course it's somehow money.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the side project is just to try out new technologies, what I usually really like to do.
Right.
And that's, for example, very valuable for me with a lot of projects that I have, even a very old one, for example, that I started 10 years with a couple of friends. And it's always running, and I can try out new stuff there, and I get out a lot of experience in different ways, not just technology, but also some communication, try out new strategies.
So do you define what are your goals for the project before even starting?
I think I should do it, but usually I don't. But of course, I always ask me this question: what is the goal, right? Or especially if there's a moment when I'm not happy with the project, then I try to define maybe those criteria or find answers at least. What is the goal? What is the current state?
Right.
And if you think about, for example, our project, what we did together with Corona. So for the listeners, maybe you want to quickly describe it. What we did?
Wolfgang and I worked together in a project called, I think, COVID-19 tracing, which was basically a tracing tool. We started this more or less in the beginning of COVID. Tracing is basically a way for you to trace back your steps in the past, let's say, 2 weeks, so that you can define which areas you are in. And in case you actually test positive for COVID, you could alert the other people that were in the same areas with you without having to put too much effort into it. You can just click, and then we would kind of send a message to everyone that shared the same place as you and say, okay, you might be infected, please be careful or test it, and so on.
Maybe important to say is also that we did it before all the other apps. were created, and before Apple and Android announced that they helped with their Bluetooth based system and all that. So it was before that, and we were based on the Google history that were already there. So there was no need to install an app to start tracing or tracking your moves. But we stopped it quite quickly, I would say. We created a fully working prototype. But then we stopped it. And I think if we take this as an example, at least from my point of view, there were two big reasons or main reasons why we stopped it. And one was because we couldn't get the proper support from the government. And I think that's the only way how to be successful in this area, to work together with the government, which is quite important, but also difficult if you don't have the right network. And for me, the second big thing was that I thought, and I think we were on the same page with that it's not the best technology, because all the apps with Android, with the Apple system, was Bluetooth based. And that's also why we decided quite early, okay, it doesn't make sense. Let's really stop it. I mean, the technology is there. And then, for example, also, if we talk about how to terminate the project, we decided, okay, we did stuff, the technology is there, our prototype is there, it works. So let's open source it, so that if there is somebody who wants to use it. We were also in contact with a couple of people in the US. They had a good network, so we said, okay, if you want to use it, we can also support you a bit with some, if you want to start with the details. But it is out there and everybody can use it.
But it's funny because here we didn't decide, again, in the beginning, what would be the termination criteria, right? It's funny because if I think about all of my projects, I never actually defined that in the beginning. I'm not sure if this is something that we should do, define what are the termination criteria. But yeah, in this case, the project, it was kind of obvious. And in retrospect, we definitely did a good decision here. Do you think so?
In general, to have kind of metrics or criteria is always good, but I think you also have to adjust it on the way, because usually you start a project and then you end up somewhere else because you change the idea or the goal, I don't know, 5 times in the first week already. So you have also to adjust, of course, your criteria.
What if the termination criteria is different depending on, and so if you have like a co-founder and like each person has a different termination criteria? Did this ever happen to you?
Kind of. It's also not too bad to have a person who has another opinion. I think it's good for the discussion. If you have 2 different opinions, for example, with our project, you interviewed Matthias as well. We are working currently on codeprint.dev, so a website where developers can print their GitHub or timeline of a repository. And we are also now at a point where we have to decide, okay, do we want to stop? Do we want to proceed? It works. It's a nice project, but of course it's not that we make a lot of money with it, or we really have to invest more time, effort into the whole marketing topic and all that. And we want to stop the project, and we try to see if we can somehow use it. Can we sell the product, for example? So there are different opportunities there.
Different
and
exits.
You should really think about that, what you can do with the project, and not just stop it.
That's actually a very great point as well. So I think that we always need an exit strategy, and it can be as simple as, open a Word document and write down what you've learned and why did you stop, or something more complex as actually, selling the company. But I think that's actually a very great tip, which is when you finish a project, take some time to analyze why and to actually have a proper closure, I think that's definitely a great tip. And, it's interesting, like when I finish a project, even when we did our COVID tracing, there's always a feeling of sadness. I mean, that's normal, but it's also something that somehow now every time, affects you. And now every time I start a new project, I'm more careful. I'm more careful because I don't want to feel the failure. I don't want to feel that sadness of termination of project, because it's still like a lot of work. In the beginning, everything is new, and I always get excited. I can get excited with the most stupid ideas, but after a while, after let's say a month, when you kind of figure out that if you want to actually do this project, it might stick with you for 1, 2, 3, 5 years. I kind of start thinking to myself, do I really want to work in this field, in this area, in this project, and for so long? And there are certain areas that I'm really passionate about, let's say normally connected with helping people, now with the climate change, with giving information to people and so on, and other areas that I'm not as passionate about. Do you also have these areas, or for you it doesn't matter, like any area is fine as long as it's an interesting project?
No, I think of course I have different areas, and I think purpose is very important. I talked about this project that I started 10 years ago with a couple of friends.
Right.
It makes a bit of money, but not a lot. So it's not really. We never got the payment for all the hours that we invested, and we started, as I said, 10 years ago. So it's
and
still
what is the
there.
project? Can you describe
And
it?
yeah, it's a e-learning platform, and you can prepare for the driving license exam in Austria. And now we are the biggest platform in Austria, with the biggest market share in Austria, and we reach a third of all the driving license, or the beginners when they prepare for the driving license. And
one in every three students use your platform. Okay, that's
exactly
great.
in Austria, and we have around, I don't know, like 2 million requests a day. So it's quite big, I would say. But even though we don't make a lot of money, but again, the purpose was or it wasn't at the beginning, but now the purpose is to fight against this driving school industry, or not to fight against them, but usually they sell the app or the system to prepare for the exam, and they sell it for, I don't know, 30 euros to 80 euros. And on our platform, you can do it for free. Everybody in Austria can do it for free. And we are the only platform that offers that. And that's the purpose for us, right? At the beginning, it was just a project. We wanted to make money. And then a lot of driving schools send us really angry, upset emails, and they even from lawyers. And now it became a purpose for us to provide this free service to all the driving students in Austria.
Ideally, you would connect something that you are passionate about with and monetize it. I think that for me, that's what I try to accomplish with my projects, and that's kind of the dream. And just because you are helping people, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't make money with it, right? So that's I think a misconception that happens a lot, that if a company is making money, somehow shouldn't focus in helping people, or that would be secondary. And if it's actually only focusing helping people, should be a non-profit, right? So I don't think that's true. I think you can have both. But it's interesting here because you have this project where you are kind of an avenger, you are fighting, helping the small guy, helping students that they don't have money. And that's something that you have been passionate about. And then you have the other project, which is Code Devs, which is, it's a nice project, but you are not actually helping the small guy. You are maybe giving a tool that entertains people. They can, see what they contributed on GitHub. But it's a project that neither you or Matthias are that passionate about, even though I think it's still, there's a lot of potential there. So do you see that a pattern here, that you might be more motivated to work in something that helps the small guy?
Of course, I think it's definitely purpose is very important for me. But even code prints, with code prints, at the end, I also want to see that the developers are happy customers at the end, and they are really happy about what we created, this tool that wasn't there before. It was definitely not just for making money. So it was also to help us and other developers to have cool stuff that they can put on their wall. And
but in this case, then why are you terminating Code Devs? Because code print. Sorry. So because in my view, it's a great product. The monetization or the business model seems quite simple. It's something that you're passionate about. Why are you both thinking on terminating it?
The problem is that we reached a point that we have really to invest a lot into marketing. So we have to promote the website.
Mm-hmm.
We have to find more customers, and that's an area where we both are not really into it, and we are both developers, engineers. We love the technical stuff. Of course, we love to think about marketing, guerrilla marketing. It's always fun to discuss it, but then to just sit down, write emails, do promotion stuff on Twitter, interact with people, really do this marketing stuff,
social media and so on. But why don't you get someone to do that?
That would be an option. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we haven't completely stopped it. For now, it's online, and we thought, okay, maybe we can sell it or find somebody who can do the marketing stuff. So if there's somebody out there, the listeners, who loves to do marketing, please contact us.
Yeah, it's a very hard topic. So far, we spoke about you need to have purpose. You need to learn, or learning something is also important. So if you are not learning anymore, it might be also a reason to terminate. And in the end, also motivation is very, very important. What I found it also hard or tricky to decide is that sometimes you're passionate about a project, but it's just not working out. You're not having enough users, you're not making enough money, and then that discourages you, right? And your first thought is like, okay, I'm quitting because I'm not having fun. But if you would have customers, if you had people, then maybe things would change, right? So it's hard. Like, when should you stop? Because there's always this feeling that if I had pushed, for one more month, maybe I could, have made it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If I think back to our driving license platform, at the beginning we weren't that successful, and we didn't have the money to invest a lot in marketing and to reach those students, which is quite difficult. And then all the driving schools, they work against you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, yeah, they don't have the right questions, and it's outdated, and if it's free, it can't be correct, and yeah, a lot of lies are flying around.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't have that many users at the beginning, and now we are market leader, but it took us almost 10 years to get to this point. So it's really a lot about time. If you don't have the money or the time that you can invest in marketing. And that's why usually a lot of companies, they need investors to get this money to push it into marketing, right? To speed up this process that took us, for example, 10 years. But of course, I think it's not about is it successful, the project? Because I think in general you can say if it's a good idea, eventually it will be successful. The question is, do you have the time and the money to invest that much into the project to get to this point?
Yeah, that's a great point. I keep on, now that I'm doing these projects, and this is basically my life now, I keep on going to something that Steve Jobs said, that is, if you knew that you're going to die in a year, would you keep on living your life as you're living now, or would you change it? And I think this is actually a great question, because when you're working in something that you're passionate about and you're motivated and you want to continue, your answer will be probably yes, and if your answer is no, and as he said, if the answer is no for multiple days in a row, maybe it's time to considering either shifting or maybe even terminating the project. Do you think that this makes sense?
I think it makes totally sense. And I think you can also ask other people, especially if you have co-founder or a team, then of course you have to discuss that anyways. And I think it's definitely more fruitful if you have co-founders, but I think you can also ask other people that maybe understand the problem, right? Or also have experience with those things, and then just really discuss the hard facts. What did you try? What do you want to achieve? And then just get another opinion on it. And then so
in the end, the conclusion of this episode is that there's no a guidebook or a set of rules that you can just, read through them and decide. In the end, it's all up to you, the entrepreneur. One thing for sure, this is part of the process. Most likely you will terminate a lot of your projects. That's okay. That's normal. That's no issue there. A couple of things that we discussed here are follow your purpose. That's quite important. Make sure that you're learning something. Discuss with your co-founders. It's always important to have a second opinion, and also kind of figure out if this is something that you would see yourself doing long term.
Exactly.
Cool. Wolfgang, thank you so much. I will link everything that we spoke about here in this episode in the description. So the projects that Wolfgang talked about and, well, everything. So you can just go to the description and check it out. Also, if you want to support this podcast, you already know I don't do ads, so you can just buy me a coffee. That will be also in the description. Any last words before we close this session, Wolfy?
No, just thanks a lot. Was a pleasure as always. For all the people out there, please buy Thiago a coffee. I will also do it when I see you the next time in person. Then I will get a beer or a coffee for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Wolfgang. Have a great day. Thank you very much. This was another episode of Wannabe Entrepreneur. See you tomorrow.